Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. Today, we are going to focus on the solution economy and bringing together SAP BRIM and SAP RAR for solutions for the new solution economy. Come on. We'll go through an introduction. I'll do some introduction and talk a bit about the subscription economy. And then we are fortunate to have a couple of folks here from SAP. Heidi Zhao and Pete Graham, who are going to talk about BRIM and RAR. We'll introduce them in a second. We'll talk a little bit about use cases and advice from a Bramasol and an implementation perspective with Jacek Dudkowski, who is a Bramasol expert. And then we will wrap that all up with some calls to action and a wrap up. So as I said, we have here on the phone, and I'll introduce my friend and the guy who's talked a number of these, Pete Graham. Pete, welcome. And Heidi Zhao, we are excited, Heidi, to have you on. Thank you for joining us all the way from beautiful, snowy Waldorf, Germany. Myself, and then, as I mentioned, Jacek Dudkowski. Just as a reminder for all of you who are out there, we are recording this webinar. So we will have an opportunity to download this webinar. And you can also ask questions throughout the entire presentation. So feel free to do that. We'll try to answer those questions as we go through this. You can download previous webinars from bramasol.com. You can also download a whole bunch of information about our user group meetings, and we'll touch on that before we wrap up today. But go ahead, go to the bramasol.com. We have some great new features on there that will allow you to do and sort through all of the different webinars that are available to you. We'd love you to reach out and contact us. You can do that through bramasol.com. There's a contact us button up on the top upper right hand side. You can contact us through Facebook, and you can contact us through LinkedIn. We have a question here. Is somebody speaking? Can you guys hear me out there? Yeah, yep, we're moving along. So let's make sure, can everybody, yep, they can hear now, all right, thank you. So a reminder, you can check us out on Facebook, LinkedIn. We have a couple of LinkedIn groups going, and then let's encourage everybody who can come on down to or come on up to SAP Insider 2020. It is going to be in beautiful Las Vegas at the Bellagio. And we are going to be doing this presentation as well as a whole bunch of others. So stop by and check us out. So let's talk a little bit about what is the subscription economy and why are we here in the first place. So here's a whole bunch of different names of different companies that have moved to the subscription economy. And in general, we'll talk about companies that some of you may or may not have ever heard of or don't know that offer subscriptions. Many of you have heard of companies called Blue Apron. They offer food as a subscription. You can sign up and get food sent to your house. You have Stitch Fix and Birchbox, all about clothing and clothes that you can have ordered to your house. You have the shave clubs. So you have whether it's Harry or the Dollar Shave Club. Chewy.com, one of my favorites. We have pets, so we love to order from Chewy.com. And over there you can see Peloton. And what a really innovative and interesting model they've come up with. Rather than buying an exercise bicycle, you pay a monthly subscription fee of about $58 to $65, depending on what you're doing. And you get a bicycle, you get an exercise bike, and you get engaged, etc. One of them that's really interesting to me is, believe it or not, you can join the Porsche subscription club. And for a fee, and I'm not sure what that fee is, it's probably about $2,000 to $3,000, but you can pick the Porsche you want to drive away with and swap that out. Hewlett-Packard, and in the business space, we know of Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. They are doing XaaS, things as a subscription, and of course, our favorite, Amazon. And Amazon is, of course, expanding its model hugely. So let's talk a little bit more about the subscription economy. And what is it? The subscription economy basically is a space wherein you either have a recurring or regular payment. So it's some form in which you consistently get a regular payment. You make it run on a monthly basis, weekly basis, whatever. And in return for that, you get a good, a service, or the privilege to do something. For example, you get the privilege to go pick up a Porsche and drive the Porsche that excites you for that day. In the case of Blue Apron, you get a good, you get a meal that comes to you on a regular basis. And in the case of Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, for example, you get a service. You can offer or get something as a platform. And we think of the subscription economy and we box that in. And when Pete and Heidi were talking about this earlier in the month as we set up for this, we talked a lot about what we'll call XaaS, which is something as a service. And the more that we see organizations and businesses moving to something as a service, it's more like a subscription economy. You'll get more and more of that where people are paying either for the privilege on a monthly basis to have Amazon servers, SAP software, any of that, but also you're going to have printing. You can have printing as a service where you pay by the page. You can have any forms of that kind of activity, security, etc. So again, those relate to a very similar type of activity. But why does this really matter? Why are we talking about this now? Gartner estimates that 75% of B2C companies will offer some form of a subscription service in the next 3 years. Think about that. As you go through all of the B2C companies that you can think of, whether it's fashion, pharmaceuticals, drugs, pet food, automobiles, whatever it is, 3/4 of those will allow you to have some form of a subscription. So the growth in this market space is going to be tremendous. McKinsey has estimated that the compound average annual growth rate in this is going to be 18 or has been 18% over the past 7 years, and that there is over $178 billion going to be spent on solutions to support this in the next 5 years. So the opportunity is tremendous. And in 2019, it's been estimated by a number of different folks, whether it's McKinsey, Deloitte, Zuaro, and others, who've estimated that over $85 billion was spent just on subscriptions last year. The other reason why it matters is because these margins on the subscription services business are significantly higher. For example, average margins in groceries are very razor thin. On average, your margins are 2 to 3%. But when it comes to whether it's the delivery or subscription or any of that, it turns out that in the grocery business, your margins are closer to 15 to 20%. This is true of many of your manufacturing businesses as well as others. So the bottom line here is, to sum it up, is it's coming. Lots of companies will offer it. The growth rate in this space is tremendous. If you think about 18% growth rate over the past 7 years, there's a lot of money going to be spent on solutions, and the margins are even higher. Let's take a step backwards in order to frame this for a moment. And there really are two main types, if you will, of subscriptions. First are this idea of boxes. The idea of boxes is you subscribe and you get a thing, right? Whether it's Birchbox, where you get clothing, Stitch Fix, Dollar Shave Club, etc. You're getting a good, a thing, something that you receive. Another one is services. The most common type are media services, right? So you think of, and we all think of our favorite company, Apple. They offer a subscription service. I can sign up for $26 a month and I have access to all of the Apple music I want, but it's a subscription. I pay month by month by month. I don't own the stuff, I own the access to that. In addition, there really are what I'll call 4 main categories of this. One is the category we'll call replenishment. Replenishment is where you're ordering materials, whether it's, as I say, pet food, Dollar Shave, printer supplies, Plexus is a vitamin and healthcare company. Every month you subscribe and you get a subscription. You get the stuff in the mail. You replenish what you have. The next one is the concept of what we'll call curation. Curation is somebody has a set of goods, services, or content that they curate and bring together. Perfect examples of that, again, are Birchbox and Blue Apron, where Blue Apron brings together lots of great meals. There are other ones that are out there. But Apple Music, they bring together tons of different kinds of music and content. Netflix is an example, and Sirius XM. Access is your third kind. Access is where you pay a monthly fee, just like your gym, and you get access to something. Peloton is an example of where you get access to using the bike and all of that great, exciting stuff that you see online of all of those supposedly, super fit people. NatureBox is another one. NatureBox and BritBox are two examples of services you can get from Amazon, Netflix, or anybody focusing you on kinds of TV shows you want to subscribe to. And of course, ADT is another example of a subscription service. You sign up and you get security monitoring, etc. Ring has a service, Vivint has a service, all smart home type services. What we're seeing though also is this fourth main category, and Pete and I talked a bit about it, which is your hybrids. And in the case, for example, we're working on a project currently with Mazda North America, where they really offer kind of a hybrid. Mazda has an option where you get with your car Sirius XM radio. Well, now it's a combination of receiving a good, which is an automobile, but you receive on top of that subscription services. In many cases, you also have Mercedes-Benz and others who offer not only Sirius XM, but they offer you subscriptions to service for your car, subscriptions to other areas. And I think what we'll see is more and more of this coming. Ring is an example of where you buy a box and then you subscribe to the Ring service as well. Vivint is a smart, intelligent home space, and then med devices. And more in the case of med devices, you're also seeing online doctors, where you get a med device. You might have a cuff, you might have a diabetes, where you get glucose subscriptions and all of that, and all of those things are happening through the advent of IoT. So the point being, think about subscriptions and think about all of this and a bunch of different boxes, if you will, or different kinds of ideas. So as we think about this process, there are really a number of challenges that organizations face, not just the organization offering the service, but the organizations that support them. Number one is agile pricing with recurring and usage-based billing that's flexible enough to handle daily changes. What does that mean? A lot of times what we find is that customers will call in, they want to change their bundle, they want to change their subscription, they want usage-based billing instead of a monthly subscription billing or a combination thereof. And you really need the kinds of solutions and services and organizations that can support you when you have high volumes of people changing their subscriptions. Revenue sharing, licensing, and other partner-focused accounting mechanisms. Remember that in a lot of these cases, although you may be paying a certain organization for that service, there might be revenue sharing. A perfect example, of course, of that is Apple Music, Netflix, podcasts, any of that where you have to pay for that content, and they're doing a revenue sharing model. Other organizations have revenue sharing models in which they might offer, I might offer a PC through Hewlett-Packard or a network server, but I would offer additional services on a subscription basis for McAfee, for security. I might offer other areas. So example, when you sell the PC, it's embedded with Microsoft, I have a revenue sharing model and vice versa. Loyalty and rewards programs, that's big. Remember that you have to keep track of that. And how do you do that from a revenue accounting space as you build up and you buy more and more, how do you manage those rewards programs? You're going to have complex contracting requirements. It's pretty straightforward in general in the B2C space, where I sign up for a subscription and I get access to content, or I get shavers in the mail, or I get cat food in the mail. This is not always true in the case of B2B services, where I might sign up at a high level, for example, for access to a set of content at a corporate level, but that access is different business unit by business unit. My colleagues and I were recently at a company that offers this kind of both a platform service as well as access to content in the case of tax, healthcare, finance, and it's a fairly complex mechanism for them to set up the contracts and understand who is taking advantage of that. As we move through the process, you'll see automation and machine learning to optimize these services and productivity. You'll begin to see, as you use products like BRIM and RAR, which we'll talk about, the access to the information and data becomes a powerful tool for you to provide and kick off automated services that offer new services, offer new billing plans, and you need to take care of that. But remember that anytime you have automation and machine learning, if you haven't built the secure foundation and a solid foundation, all you're doing is automating and speeding up bad business processes. You want to be scalable, and you need the scalability to handle high volume and the dynamically changing service delivery. If you're a telco or Apple or anybody like that, think about the high volumes of people who are out there. You could be internet service providers, you can be Amazon, et cetera, et cetera. The volumes are not in the hundreds, they're not in the thousands, they're in the millions of transactions daily, weekly. And being able to manage that is not going to be possible with a tool that's not specially built to handle that. And you want to be able to scale. So as you introduce new dynamic business models, you need to be able to do that in a way that allows you to scale and read that volume. Finally, and I talk about this in a number of areas, including the digital economy, et cetera, it's the need for excellence and consistency in customer experience across all of your channels of engagement. Whether you choose to engage via the web, phone, mobile device, or anything else, a pad, anything, more and more people want to see consistent experiences. They want that data available in all of those areas. How will you be able to do that as an organization? So we talked about what is the subscription economy. We talked a little bit about the different types of areas that are involved in this and the need for and some of the challenges. When it comes to systems, this is important because you're talking again about high volume. You're talking about millions and millions of records on a daily basis, and you're building that over time. In many cases, you have to keep those records for not just weeks, months, but years. That's a lot of data to be able to access. It's highly complex. In many cases, you have customers who are switching plans on a weekly, monthly basis. They'll come on, they'll drop, they'll add. They may have been a customer a while ago and now want a different kind of an experience. You need something that can handle that. You need to be scalable, as I said, not from the thousands to the billions. Security. Security is another huge issue in the subscription economy. Every day I get notices from one of my subscriptions where it tells me that there's been yet another breach of personal data. You have a lot of personal data as you get a lot of learning on the subscription economy. What are you doing to secure that data? Financial data. You know, if you're the one who's holding the credit cards, if you're the one who's holding the ACH data, you need to make sure that that data is secure. And in the case of some of these other services, as we see more and more healthcares like doctors getting into this space, you're going to also have to secure your personal health information, PHI, and that rises to another level of security around things like um, HIPAA, for example. So remember that. Finally, you want it to be, or not finally, but you also want it to be integrated to the financials so that everything is driving together and you have clear insights, and then you have analytics that drive insight to action. So with all of those things in mind, I'm going to turn it over to Heidi. Heidi's going to kind of walk you through, and Heidi, as we go through here, just tell me when to move to slides. We'll turn it over to you, and you can talk a little bit about a product that I've just started learning more about, and I'm really excited, which is BRIM. So, you there?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, John. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hey, thank you, John, for introducing this service and subscription-based economy. So my name is Heidi Zhao. I'm the solution owner of SAP Billing and Revenue Innovation Management. And this is the product to empower the customer to survive in this disruptive economy and to increase the revenue, recurrent revenue and usage-based revenue. So the three key factors about this product, rapid design, right? With all those disruptive changes, the service-oriented, and then moving from product manufacturing and to subscription-based, you need really agile about pricing and update frequently. The old days, people update their pricing every 3 months, and now you compete with others. If you're streaming, you want to provide $5 per month offering right there, and those kind of things. And if you have a B2B business scenarios, you want to have the complex contract to master the customer's hierarchies, and you want to do the revenue share. These days, economies, nobody can work silos. You want, like John mentioned about the Apple iTunes, 99 cents a dollar will be divided by 10 ways with different providers, different developers, and how you kind of capture those pricing, those contracts. And holistic management, right? You want to track end-to-end recurring and usage-based revenue, right? Not only the time and based the recurring, the subscriptions, also the usage by the click, by the download, certain by the delivery. Those are things. Those are the key factors of the brand. Billing and Revenue Innovation Management is short for brand. And customer focus with the volume. B2C customers and the brand can handle the customer's volume and also provide a holistic 360 degrees end-to-end billing and financial views. So when the customer calls, you can provide a service. You can quickly dispute all changes and then give a customer a holistic view, increase the customer satisfaction here. Next slide, please. And as I said, the brand is end-to-end order-to-cash solutions, and they help you to deal with current service and recurring economies. And the whole workflow is come from the order capture, different orders and contracts. And the orders basically the subscription and usage-based order, and the complex B2B, and the master agreement with complex customer hierarchy, the partner revenue share with multi-partners, and with a streaming service like iTunes that different providers and different music providers, and divided several ways to different partner revenue share. And the usage collections is the key, right? Like John said about the volume, right? Thinking about the iTunes 1 billion customer online, and thinking about the data they consume, thinking about the people everyday download and the telephone that everybody calls and texts and data they use. And so you need some kind of system to real time collect those data and integrate it with the financial system. And pricing, charging, real time rating the system, and the system availability for that high volume up to 99.999%. Every second that downtime, you lose the money, you lose the chance of generate more revenue. And billing and settlements become more complex, right? You aggregate from different billing channels, and then you settle with different partners. You not only generated the billing for your customer, you also settle the payout to your customers. And you send a different correspondence based on the customer requirements and based on different upsell, cross-sell opportunities. And payment become also essentials, right? Because the customer nowadays, the people have a less and less cash payment bank deposit. It's more digital payment method, online, credit card, PayPal, and Apple Pay, and those kind of a payment methods, and how you collect them securely, how you go through the payment processors. SAP also provided the cloud digital payment and to connect you to the third party securely and store all the tokenized payment information. And doing the reconciliation. Upfront, you collect the money and make sure back in your bank really receive those kind of cash. And also the last but not least, the customer care, right? When customer calls, can you provide a holistic view from order to cash, the fact sheet, and then provided all the customer information, all the phone calls on the download. When customer want to dispute individual calls or individual text message, can you do that? And can you make a customer happy in just a minute, the online calls? And those kind of things that SAP BRIM, you really can provide those kind of functionalities. Next slide, please. So here's some BRIM use case to help you monetizing your recurring and the service-based revenue, right? So that's not all. I just want to put several examples, and I think John have brought several good use case how we're doing that. So when customer moving from product to service and outcome based, typically you implement BRIM and to support their agile pricing, right? As I said, the HP printer, Lexmark printer, we all have the home printers, and now how you're going to configure in the system the tier-based pricing based on the printing per pages, or the download, the movie download, or the game playing, how you're going to download it and then configure the pricing based on the time you consumed. And SAP, the pricing module, BRIM pricing module can help you quickly moving the product to service and outcome-based business cases. Internet of Things, connected devices. For example, the cars that John mentioned, we have the connected car cases for each usage. The customer master data typically is stored in the BRIM systems and then will be triggered based on the contract, either recurring or usage based on the driving, based on the monthly subscriptions, and based on your privilege, what kind of contract you use. And digital commerce, very common, right? Like a PayPal, the online payment platform in Europe, Zalando, those kind of payment program, how you collect the cash, and how you provide a platform to enable the customer to accept all worldwide different kind of digital payments and reconcile them and make sure you really receive the money. And the platform business models. And the BRIM is really a very powerful system to provide high availability and high performance for the high volume, something like 99.999% availability to enable certain customers, such as the telecommunications, such as like Apple, those large volume going through systems every day and perform real time to enable the customer to posting the subscription and the usage consumption-based transaction and revenue. And pricing agility, I mentioned earlier, the use case, for example, the utilities, how you agile when you provide a new pricing for the energy efficiency, how you real time reach the customer usage by the peak hour versus off-peak hours. And the SAP BRIM, the charging engine, can do a real-time pricing reading, postage that you deliver, your pricing different rating by different kind of a packaging, and then you do a revenue recognition at the time of delivery, not at the time of the purchase. And revenue management renovation, that's the most customers' concerns when you have a large point of sales data. You have billions of customers in the system. You have hundreds of millions of customers playing Xbox or PlayStation and Nintendos and have subscriptions there. So how you manage customer financials, how you do the revenue recognition in the system, how you record all the financial transactions in the systems. and the BRIM can enable you to support those high volume and large customers, their financial transactions, and enable the revenue recognition, provided the information for revenue recognition that my colleague Pete will talk about. Next slide, please. For that being said, the BRIM is really from the managing your subscription order, managing your customer contract, and to collect usage, to the pricing charging, and to bill and settle, and handling your payment, and managing your credit collection and dispute, and managing your financial customer care online to handle large volume. So I don't want to go through details. Can you click on it? One more time, please. So I want to highlight this area. Right? We have end-to-end handling all this use case and scenario that John has described, to collect all this information to enable and to comply the revenue recognitions. And for example, the order, the contracts, the one is ordered and one is fulfilled, and the time-based versus the subscription-based versus the event by certain triggers based. And at the time of bill and settlement, we send all the consumption item, all the billable items, and all the triggered event downloaded from upstream system from IoT devices, and all those revenue-related information. We pass on all those information to RAR for them to further process it and to posting the revenue recognition, the compliance. That's all from my side. So I will pass on to my colleague Pete, talk further about the revenue recognition.
All right, thanks, Heidi. So in the interest of time, we'll go through this quickly. So just a quick overview of the revenue recognition options from SAP for on-premise. We have SAP Revenue Accounting and Reporting. That can also be in a private cloud or HEC edition, single tenant edition. And then on the cloud side, we have S/4HANA. Sorry, Heidi.
Am I the only one heard? Am I the only one hear the echo?
You're hearing an echo?
Heidi, this is Jacek Dudkowski. I hear echo as well. Pete, I think.
Okay, is it now better?
It is better now.
Okay. Thanks, Heidi. Thanks, Jacek. So on the cloud side, we have S/4HANA Cloud solution for S/4HANA Cloud customers. And we also have SAP Revenue Recognition or RevSim, CalDES RevSim product for non-SAP customers. Just a quick summary of the positioning we have of the solutions, but today we're going to focus really on the on-premise SAP Revenue Accounting and Reporting. So if you go to the next slide, we see, kind of our summary slide here. SAP Revenue Accounting and Reporting is really our brand promise to automate and simplify revenue accounting. Simply revenue documents go in, we apply some rules and events related to IFRS 15 or ASC 606 or 605 if you want, and journal entries come out. So this is a tool we use internally at SAP, and if we go to the next slide, I want to talk a little bit about how this works with BRIM, and really this is all about the new subscription economy, right? And so that was really one of the things that we'll start highlighting here. And when you look at these operational solutions across the top, that's really all of these subscriptions, right, that people are dealing with. And if you now look at the RAR system, it has three basic parts. And if you do the build, the first build is it has this integration layer, brings data in from lots of systems. And we're going to talk in the use cases here in a minute, really about the unique integration that is out of the box. It can be enhanced through some local project work between BRIM and RAR, so that as you're dealing with the subscription economy, you can not only manage the billing side on the BRIM, but also on the revenue recognition side. And we'll also talk about some end-to-end data mining related to that whole set of data that ends up being booked to your GL. So the first part is the integration layer, inbound processing with a rules engine embedded. The second is the contracts. They take contracts just like the 5-step model under the IFRS 15 and ASC 606. And then the third is the posting, right? And that's why we have the integration to ERP or S/4HANA. Certainly in the high volume cases, it's S4. And so with that quick background, now we want to switch to the use cases, and I'll let Heidi lead this. I'll chime in a little bit, and John may also chime in as well. So Heidi, back to you on the integration overview.
Okay, this is the first we're talking about the use case for printing company. Is this the one? Oh no, this is the general. So the within SAP, the BRIM and RAR is naturally integrated with each other. As you see, the BRIM is managing the operational data from the order, contract, fulfillment, and the invoice. Of course, many more financial posting and cash management, but related to the revenue accounting reporting are the orders, contract, fulfillment, and the invoice data. And those data are high volume data or subscription service-based data we pass on to the RAR for them to processing. The RAR have, of course, the rule that Pete has mentioned into processing and post at the end to general ledger. So first, I really want to highlight is this is really standard integration within SAP. We designed very thoroughly that automated this process between BRIM and RAR, so RAR can keep all the detailed information that BRIM has posted with flexibility of all the factor, all the elements that BRIM has for example, the fulfillment, certain triggers to trigger the revenue recognition based on certain downloads, certain click, or based on the order contract, based on start time, ending time, based on the time-based certain monthly subscription, weekly subscription, or annual subscriptions. Of course, the financial compliance is the key that Pete has mentioned. Anything, Pete, you want to add to it? Next slide.
Yeah. So thanks, Heidi.
Next slide, please.
Sorry, just dealing with the
go ahead.
echo here. Yes, I think that's a great overview. I mean, as we get into the use cases, just will want to highlight, really my main thing to point out to folks is just the end-to-end benefits, right? Once you get the order data from BRIM and you're putting it also into RAR for revenue recognition, at the end of the day, we've seen customers that have great data now at the performance obligation level for their marketing packages or subscription packages that they then use to refine those packages, right? So it's really a great end-to-end data mining or analytics value.
Pete, Heidi, this is Jacek Dudkowski. One thing I would like to add for folks to think about is that if you look at the picture on the right side of the screen, BRIM is your operational document. It is really the way you want to do business with your customers in the most optimal way, and BRIM allows you to do that. Now, RAR worries about compliance, and the picture of the deal, when looked through the view of IFRS 15 or IC 606 or whatever accounting principle, might not necessarily be identical to your operational picture. My performance obligations might not be one-to-one mapped to my line items on my contract with the customer. And that's the beauty of this combination here, is I get an optimal contract structure that I want for my business operations, and BRIM allows me to do that, yet I can transfer the data and restructure the picture to make sure that that actual deal is now structured in a way that makes me compliant for IFRS 15. And the two come again together in GL, where RER does adjustments on top of what BRIM has posted to make sure that the eventual revenue picture is compliant to IFRS 15 or whatever accounting principle you might be trying to be compliant into, regardless of what BRIM has done. And again, BRIM focuses on optimizing your relationship with the customer, whereas RER optimizes your relationship with the compliance authorities.
Next page, please. So well said, as I said, the BRIM is the operational, and then collect all the information. It's like a giant database to collect any billable, non-billable information, revenue-related posting, non-revenue-related posting. Then we filter, have the revenue-related posting sent to RAR. As I said, it's not one-on-one relationship, could be in aggregated form and could be based on different criteria. And here's the example, the SAP using SAP itself, using BRIM and RAR combination, the integration. So SAP as its own company, our Ariba and Concur and the SaaS offering all utilize BRIM for their subscription and consumption-based usage billing. As you see, we can provide in this case with BRIM a flexible the pricing, especially we can collect all the usage and consumptions and then measure the customer, estimate the customer's pricing and the invoicing upfront. And of course, the benefit is the full benefit is the tracking end-to-end detail, the customer usage, customer consumptions, and prevent revenue leakage through some kind of gap if you can collect certain information. And also the other side is we do the tier pricing. We can have the flexibility for customer to have the tier pricing versus usage pricing instead of the traditional SAP only offer one-time pricing. With the current SaaS offering, and this is a great tool to enable SAP for the cloud offering here. And then look at the usage side. So the BRIM contains the order, contract, and fulfill, and then the invoice components here and sent to the general ledgers. But we want to highlight the contract and the fulfillment, right? Because this one is based on recurring and consumption based. This is use case when SAP offers cloud service SaaS-based the subscription software. So you charge a customer monthly based fees. Also, you charge a customer based on measured software consumptions here. And then the invoice statement is sent to the customer. At the same time, the fulfillment of the contract detail, starting, ending date, and the consumption detail sent to the RAR for RAR to perform based on the business rules here. Anything to add here?
Just adding on the RAR side, I mean, as the volumes grow, you want to automate your revenue recognition process, and so that's where RAR comes in. Certainly, if you had lower volumes, you may not need that, but you know, literally, if you get into these, you know, millions or tens of millions of transactions every month, you need to automate that.
Next slide, please. And this is another example, right? We're talking about the high-tech software company. This is a giant software company enable their online platform, commerce, and gaming, and many more business online. So they have multiple billing channels, and it's really hard for them to aggregate to have a holistic view of a customer view, especially B2C, to track these customers and not work silos. A customer, you can view the customer financial portfolio cross different LOB versus they play video games versus they purchase the softwares and all the other online commercial purchase. So BRIM can enable the multiple channels together, provide a holistic 360-degree of the customer from order to finance posting views, and simplify their landscapes and really provide their monetizing and the revenue systems for their optimization, especially their growth for the online commerce is from the transfer from the traditional only the product and manufacturing based to the online services here. So this is a really large customers. As P said, this is a really high volume. So we really need the automation, posting all this B2C, hundreds of millions of online customer, the transaction and consumption from the BRIM posting to RAR and using the automated rules to post and comply the revenue recognition regulations here. Pete?
Yeah, I mean, my only comment is, you know, some of the customers I've worked with this very closely as we were rolling out revenue accounting and reporting, or RAR, and so some of these customers just was working with us very early on, and you know, now they're seeing the benefits right as their volume grows. So anyway, it's all about managing the growth of the business, and then also getting the insights to actions right in you know, as you're capturing that data and processing it properly.
Next slide, please. And here's a similar slide of the revenue BRIM and RAR integration posting. However, we need all the orders and invoice and fulfill and contract all the information and transfer to the RAR. And as I said, this is a high volume customers, so we need aggregated the monthly subscriptions. We need aggregated their consumption data and posting to the RAR, and have automatic account determination, automated the revenue recognitions for fulfillment and for their billing cycle. Next slide, please. And this is another example. This is a hardware company. It's a printing service. So we have a couple printing companies that transfer from the manufacturing to sale that the printer you have at home now just provide a monthly subscription and service base. And because as you know, when you sell a $100 printer, you really don't make any money. So you make money out of the service, out of the subscription, out of the ink. So the customer provided the monthly subscription also charge you tier-based pricing by printing with a large customers such like Walmart. So when the customer printed 10,000 per page, you have a one price, printing to 20,000 per month, and then there's a different tier pricing. So, and imagine all this transaction real-time posting in the BRIM consumption base, and then rated, and then transferred and aggregated the posting to the billing, and all the revenue recognition complexities here from different locations and different localizations. And we are able to automate all this process and integrate it with RAR, seamless to handle this large volume transactions here. Next slide, please. And also
I mean,
to mention also the cousin. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I was going to mention here, Heidi, is that's unique is the consumables here. That's a little different. And that's also, I think, a unique capability of BRIM, which you can talk to, as well as just the multiple element arrangement, right? The hardware and software nature.
Yeah, that's a good point. So also handling the bundle, right? Because the hardware and the software, so the hardware delivered to the locations is different pricing, different revenue recognition rules versus the software subscriptions versus the printing services. So there's provided this kind of a bundle contract. However, when you do the revenue recognitions, you need based on different timing and different event revenue recognitions, and the RAR is playing the magic to managing the revenue recognition for the operational leads, for their usage, and for their software and hardware consumption. Next slide, please. And this
I think this is our final use case, right, Heidi?
Oh yeah, this is the last one. So this is the media company, and they have the theme park. They provide the online streaming services. They have a monthly subscription. They have a different entertainment that you can subscribe to, and it's really fast to ramp up customers. As I mentioned earlier, the agile pricing, right? They really need facing the market computations and quickly set up the system that able to handle millions of customers on the platform, migrate on the platform in short time of period. So BRIM can enable this kind of process quickly within several months, and to enable the multi-countries that you see the last year and this year to get the millions of the customer on this platform to subscribe different subscriptions and different bundling here. Next page, please. And this is a similar integrations, and majority is the different time-based bundle because all the subscriptions are different kind of products. When the customer doing the revenue recognition, so we need to send all the order information automatically to RAR for them to understand the order different kind of subscriptions and then different customer regions in the different bundle and different recurring revenues.
Yeah, I mean, the one comment I'll make, and then I think this will be the last right on the use cases, is just the flexibility, right, of BRIM and RAR. I mean, basically, this is a media company that's got to have a lot of different and has and will see more business model changes and growth and volumes and consumption and streaming, and all of that flexibility is handled with BRIM and RAR. The other thing is the data mining, right, and insight to action that they'll get after all of these activities are recorded and better hone their business going forward, right? So.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Heidi, any comments on this? I know we're getting nearly out of time in the webinar, so maybe just make a brief comment and we can let Jacek talk about some of the key implementation considerations.
Yeah, so this is probably just want to highlight the certain activities that not related to RAR, but to focus on the modules like subscription order and traditional sales and distribution. As we mentioned earlier, there's a hardware and software bundle, subscription and hardware bundle kind of scenarios, and we handle this great scenario, have a different kind of fulfill invoicing and a different kind of orders and integration component to send to RAR, and then working through the posting at the end, posting to the general ledger. So move on to the next slide, please.
Okay, really, you know, and we'll let Jacek here jump in. I mean, really, now that you understand a little bit about BRIM and RAR and, you know, the service subscription economy and handling growth, we wanted to give you some insights on, well, how do I consume it or how do I implement it? So, Jacek, why don't you take it away here? We've got a couple scenarios highlighted and some considerations to think about.
Absolutely, thank you, Pete. So my name is Jacek Dudkowski. I'm a managing consultant with Bramasol's revenue recognition practice. And working in RER for a number of years, we obviously came across a number of considerations when you look at especially IFRS 15 and AC 606, which was the driving force behind the RER implementations. If you think about that, the picture of what that guidance calls a contract is actually a picture of your deal with a customer. That deal itself could be represented within your BRIM application, other operational applications by multiple documents, multiple BRIM contracts, multiple line items. All of those could then be consolidated into one revenue contract because under the guidance, that is your deal with a customer. For example, your customer pays you X dollars to have unlimited subscriptions of unlimited portfolio of products for 6 months, as a theoretical example, right? So, a consideration in implementing that sort of integrated scenario is to think that the contract object is defined differently when you look from the BRIM side versus what a contract object is defined in the RER side, and understand how the two structures look and the two structures will communicate. What you don't want to do is really replicate them one-to-one and perhaps overburden maybe the RER side of integration with just multiple line items which aren't necessary, because in terms of a 606, you would not truly need that many performance obligations. But it's definitely a picture you need to look at, not just sending the data in and expecting it to be replicated one-to-one. Obviously, given the volumes that we can see in typical BRIM, implementations and solutions which are a very good fit for that functionality, performance becomes an issue when we're talking to tools like RER, and especially when you're talking about period close, posting reviews, so things that obviously take time and are very time critical for the business around period end, quarter end, year end. So the second consideration, really aligned to the contract structure, is think about number of items you are generating and pushing through for posting optimization with RER. And SAP is rolling out a number of functionality to optimize both contract management and posting processes. So that's definitely something you should consider in your integrated scenarios. And I think that's really it, Pete and John, is the idea that RER represents the picture of the compliance picture of the deal, whereas BRIM represents the operational picture of the deal. The two are not always identical.
That's great, Jacek. Thank you very much. And I know, we one thing also to keep in mind, and Pete and I talked about was, and you know this because we talk about contract modification all the time. One of the big advantages of using a tool like RAR is contract modifications. And in this particular, these scenarios, you have tons and tons, thousands, if not millions, of contract modifications happening on a regular basis. And I think it's important for you to think about how do you handle that either in an automated fashion, use the exception tools, or are there, just scenarios in which you need to think about that process?
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Absolutely. There's, especially when BRIM is not the only system talking to RER. I could, for example, sell my customers some hardware, which I sell outright, and then subscription to some peripherals for the hardware or some usable things for the hardware. I sell hardware and then I attach a service to it, right? There's pricing allocation logic that ASC 606 would need. And then especially when you start modifying that contract, it is in space of RER where the accounting would be correct regardless of what the operational picture looks like. So absolutely, contract modification, contract combination are the two things you also need to consider.
Thanks. So why don't we talk a little bit about, we'll wrap this up and do a call to action. So call to action is, for those of you who are using BRIM and RAR or you have more information, please feel free to reach out to anybody on here, whether it's Pete, Heidi, myself. There'll be information in here on how you can do that. And Jacek. Yeah, I guess you can talk to Jacek too. Check us out at Insider. We encourage you to come. There's information on here specifically about our time. We are doing a talk very similar to this at Insider, so I think you'll get more about that and you'll have a chance to come over to the booths and talk to us. I'm sorry about that. Download the webinar recording and share it with your colleagues to spur on discussion. I can't tell you how many times we go in and talk to different customers and we ask them about their future. They say, well, I might want to use RAR, maybe not, maybe BRIM, maybe not. But then you ask them about, are you moving to a managed services model? And all of a sudden it starts spurring that. So I encourage you to do that. If you have BRIM, think about how RAR could help you automate and simplify your revenue recognition. Depends on what aspects of RAR you're using, but make sure you're doing that. Excuse me. Another place I would suggest is if you have RAR and you are moving to more of a subscription-based model, you may want to use BRIM to help you with a lot of that. And there are a lot of aspects, and we'll be following up with more webinars specific to this to talk about the various aspects of BRIM, because BRIM, like anything else at SAP, is actually a portfolio of awesome products. If you have BRIM and RAR already, which many of you may, are you optimally using them? Are you getting the most out of not just the systems and how they communicate, but what about the data mining? There is tons and tons of data, and how do you correlate the data between the recognized revenue and the actual activity that's taking place in your business? And if you have neither, you need them, and you want to contact us, and we'll do an introductory subscription economy session or workshop. So reach out, we'll be providing those as well. Let's wrap this up real quick because we are running out of time. Be prepared for the subscription economy. It is another example of something that is not maybe coming. It's not an if, it's a when, and you need to be prepared as a business. Consider BRIM and RAR from SAP to help manage your subscription economy activities. They are products that work very well together. Not only that, and I'm going to throw another plug in here real quick, not only does this have implications on how you're managing the customer relationship and how you're managing your compliance, but remember that when you move away from I paid for something up front to I'm paying for things over time, there's a big change in your treasury activities as well. So the fact that you will now have a lot more visibility into this is going to help manage your cash management and treasury. So look for more on that. Jacek talked about consider implementation planning well in advance. Pete and I always laugh when we get on projects because we have yet to see a customer who tells us anything is easier than they thought it was going to be. It's always a lot more complicated, and it's not necessarily complicated because of the software. This is a business process, and you need to make sure that you're managing those business and technical processes up front. Please reach out to us with any questions. We're here for you. We didn't get a lot online because I know we put a lot of content out there in a pretty fast manner. So reach out. I want to thank everybody for attending. This has been awesome. Again, thank you, Pete, as always, for the awesome support you provide. Jacek, I know you and I just came back from customer meetings for 3 days, so thank you for pulling your piece. And Heidi, it's a pleasure to have you on. We look forward to having you going forward. And remember that Bramasol is your leader in business transformation and finance compliance. We are the RevRec experts, and we are soon to be the BRIM experts as well as Treasury. So look forward to more of these, and thank you everybody for attending. Have a great day. We are done.